To go to Pat McFadden, who's the Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury. And Pat, we want to talk to you about lots of interesting things about mortgages and whatever. But I just look, this mightn't be your sphere, and you mightn't be qualified for it, whatever. But we're all fascinated as to what's going on between Prigozhin and Putin at the moment, and if this is the end of the Wagner group or what has happened. It was a love in, it was a love out. No, it was a love out, it was a love in, and now it's a love out again between Prigozhin and Putin. What do you think is happening here? What way do you think this is going to end up?
Well, it's hard to know how it's going to end up, but I think several things have been exposed. First of all, cracks in the Russian regime. Putin likes to project this image of strength, of being the ultimate strongman. He didn't look very strong at the weekend when these events were taking place, and that will be what is bothering him most about this. The second thing, of course, is this idea of private armies. Can you imagine in this country a private army taking over a major city for a day and beginning a march on the capital? I mean, absolutely extraordinary. And the third thing to me was Prigozhin exposing that the excuses given for the invasion of Ukraine last year didn't stack up. I mean, he said there was no threat to Russia from Ukraine or the West at the time, and we know that this war was launched on a false pretext by Putin, and that's now been confirmed by Prigozhin. So difficult to say how this will turn out, but I think several things have been exposed by the events of the last few days.
Prigozhin has driven a coach and horses through Putin's case for war. I think he put that extremely well.
Thanks for your opinions on that, Pat. I know that was a bit off-piece, but thanks very much indeed. Very detailed.
All right.
On mortgages, we've heard from the Resolution Foundation, haven't we, recently, that they think mortgages are going to go up on average around £3,000 in the next year. What is Labour's plan to try and help people with the crisis?
Well, we produced some proposals last week, which we're putting to Parliament to have a vote on today. There are 4 or 5 proposals which I can go through, but the real point of them all is to mandate lenders to do as much as they possibly can to avoid people having their homes repossessed. These mortgage rises are a bombshell for people. Depending on where you live in the country, you could get a letter from your bank or building society saying that your payment's going to go up by £300, £400, £500 a month. And in those circumstances, this is very, very difficult for people. They've done the right thing by trying to buy their home. They've worked hard. They've saved hard for their deposit. You buy your own home and you think you've got security. Now that security is turning into, at best, uncertainty and at worst, fear. So the measures that we're putting forward today are to ask lenders to allow people who get into trouble to do things like extend the term of your loan, maybe go on an interest-only period for a while, and then to make sure that if you make yourself use these flexibilities, that it doesn't hurt your credit rating in the future. So let's do what we can with the lenders to stop people losing their homes, if that's at all possible.
To be fair, I mean, the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, is doing just that, isn't he? We heard from him yesterday that he held a meeting on Friday with lenders. He got 85% of them to sign up to a mortgage charter, which will, A, support those who are worried about repayments, but secondly, support those who are at real risk of losing their homes, specifically, as you point out, with a minimum 12-month period for first missed payments to repossessions without consent. So that's a significant step being made by the Treasury in the last few days.
And some of the lenders are doing some of these things, but the difference between what the government put together the other day with lenders and what we are saying today is we want this to be mandatory. Even with that 85% figure that you quoted there, that could mean over 1 million mortgage holders not being able to use these flexibilities, or their lenders not making them available to them. Now, the best lenders are doing some of this already, but what we wanted to make sure was that we had a mandatory package that would be available to every mortgage holder. And with the government's package, we don't quite have that, and that's part of the reason why we're forcing the vote today.
And that vote, Pat, I mean, I would have imagined, whatever the differences between you and the government in detail, broad consensus must be with you. Are you expecting crossbench support for what you're proposing?
No, since I started this round of interviews this morning, I've found that the government have amended our motion. So I'm not expecting cross-party support. I think there'll be a division on this today, which is sad to see. I don't think they needed to amend our motion. I think they could have got in behind it and made sure we were all united in having a mandatory system that lenders should offer as much help as possible to borrowers who get into trouble.
Yeah.
But it looks like we may not have the consensus that you're asking about in the Commons this afternoon.
But the good thing, the interesting thing is that you're not necessarily looking for public funds to level these payments up. I mean, this can all be done by the lenders themselves.
Yeah, we haven't called for that. I mean, obviously, our instincts are always to try to help people, but the country's public finances have been extremely stretched in recent years. The country's had to borrow a lot of money to get through COVID. We lost sight of the imperative for financial stability. Well, we didn't lose sight, but the Conservative government did last September when that mini-budget was launched, which was the thing that really put the rocket boosters under mortgage rates to begin with. And, you know, standing here as a representative of the Labour Party, I'm not about to repeat the mistakes that the Tories made last year and take our eye off the necessity for financial stability. That's got to underpin everything that we do, and that's a requirement here as it will be in the future.
But does voting Labour necessarily result in financial stability? I mean, we only have to look at you U-turning on your £28 billion net zero plans today. I'm reading that you're now abandoning plans for your 10% tax on companies like Facebook and on Amazon because of fears of US trade sanctions. I mean, can we really trust the Labour on the economy?
Well, I believe that you can. To take the specific there, the digital measure that we proposed, that was always intended to be a temporary measure. But going forward, it's really important that you and your viewers know that we will put financial stability first. And in fact, if we make changes to policy to comply with that, that's a reason to trust us more. Because if circumstances have changed, if the economic situation has got more difficult, and we said, well, that doesn't matter, we're going to, blindly proceed with what we said years ago, it doesn't matter about the economic situation, that wouldn't be the right thing to do. And it's precisely because we're putting financial stability first that we're looking at our policies, making sure that everything that we say is affordable, making sure if we make a proposal, we say how we pay for it, because we understand that financial stability has to be the foundation upon which everything else is built.
Pat, got to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed for outlining your plans and that little insight into the Russian situation there. Pat McFadden is the Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury, and he's asking MPs from across the House to get behind their package of mandatory measures to help ease the mortgage bombshell hitting you as a family.